Now, we all love Formula One for its incredible speed, breathtaking overtakes, and championship drama. But let's be honest, sometimes the biggest drama isn't on the track. It's behind the scenes, in the boardrooms, or deep within the regulations. Today, we're strapping in for a wild ride through the chapters of F1 history, counting down the top 10 scandals that absolutely shocked the world of Formula One. These are the moments that exposed cheating, sparked fierce rivalries, saw careers ruined, and fundamentally changed the sport forever. From sneaky tech tricks to outright conspiracies, we've got it all. So buckle up, hit that like button, and let's dive into the murky waters of F1's most controversial chapters. Kicking off our list at number 10, it's a scandal that wasn't about cheating, but about a very public, very awkward, and frankly, pretty savage breach of team orders. Multi 21 from the 2013 Malaysian Grand Prix. Picture this. It's the early stages of the 2013 season. Red Bull Racing, with their reigning champion Sebastian Vettel and veteran Mark Webber, are dominating. In Malaysia, late in the race, Webber is leading Vettel. The team sends out a coded radio message, Multi 21. In Red Bull speak, this means Car 2, Webber, stays ahead of Car 1, Vettel. It's a standard team order to ensure they secure a comfortable 1-2 finish and manage their tyres. Simple, right? Well, apparently not for Sebastian Vettel. Despite the clear instruction, Vettel, with his aggressive, win-at-all-costs mindset, decided he wanted that victory more. He ignored the order, attacked Webber furiously, and, after a wheel-banging battle that probably gave Christian Horner a heart attack, he overtook his teammate to take the win. The fallout was immediate and explosive. On the podium, the tension was so thick you could cut it with a blunt spoon. Mark Webber famously grumbled, Multi-21 Seb, Multi-21. He accused Vettel of outright disrespect and breaking a gentleman's agreement. Vettel, for his part, was initially defiant, later admitting he made a mistake, but also saying he probably wouldn't change it. This scandal wasn't about illegality, but about the unwritten rules of team dynamics. It exposed the brutal reality of intra-team rivalries, even between teammates seemingly on good terms. It painted Vettel as a ruthless competitor and left a bitter taste, reminding everyone that in F1, winning sometimes comes at the cost of team harmony. At number 9, we head back to 2009 for a technical genius move that skirted the very edge of the rulebook. Brawn GP's double diffuser. Remember 2009? Honda pulls out of F1, leaving their team in limbo. Ross Brawn, the mastermind, buys it for a symbolic £1, renames it Brawn GP, and then magic. They arrive at the first race with a car that's insanely fast. Jenson Button and Rubens Barrichello are suddenly winning races, leaving the established giants like Ferrari and McLaren scratching their heads. Their secret weapon? The double diffuser. Now, for the non-engineers out there, a diffuser is basically a cleverly shaped tunnel at the back of the car that helps air flow more efficiently under the car, creating downforce that glues the car to the track. More downforce equals more grip equals more speed. The 2009 rules were supposed to reduce downforce to slow the cars down. But Brawn, along with Williams and Toyota, found a loophole. Their diffuser had a second inner channel that effectively tricked the air, creating even more downforce than intended. It was a brilliant, almost cheeky interpretation of the rules. The rival teams were furious. They cried foul, accusing Brawn of cheating. McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull, they all protested, saying it was illegal. The FIA had to step in. After multiple hearings and much deliberation, they eventually ruled the double diffuser legal. This decision infuriated the protesting teams, who then had to rush to redesign their own cars to incorporate a similar concept, costing them precious time and money. Brawn GP, having this advantage from the start, famously went on to win both the Constructors' and Drivers' Championships in their only season in F1. It was a triumph of clever interpretation, but it left a bitter taste for many, showcasing how technical loopholes can completely turn a season on its head. At number 8, we go way back to 1982 for a bizarre and tragic scandal known as the non-starters at Imola, a race that almost didn't happen and ended in heartbreak. The 1982 season was already a chaotic one, with a huge political war brewing between the sport's governing body, FISA, and the team's association, FOCA, over regulations, particularly regarding car weight and water-cooled brakes. After some contentious disqualifications at previous races, most of the FOCA-aligned teams, including giants like Williams, McLaren, and Brabham, decided to boycott the San Marino Grand Prix at Imola in protest. This wasn't just a simple disagreement. It was a full-blown battle for control of Formula One. The teams, organised as FOCA and led by Bernie Ecclestone, were locked in a bitter power struggle with FISA, the governing body. The immediate fuse was lit by a clever technical loophole involving water-cooled brakes. Some FOTA teams had exploited a rule, using water tanks that were full during pre-race weigh-ins, but then emptied during the race to run their cars significantly underweight for a speed advantage. After the previous race in Brazil, 2 FOTA cars were disqualified for this, sparking outrage and leading to the drastic decision to boycott Imola in protest of FISA's authority. What did that leave us with? A grand total of 14 cars on the grid for an F1 race. Imagine that today. It was surreal. With most of their main rivals absent, Ferrari's Gilles Villeneuve and Didier Pironi were set to dominate on home turf. They easily led the race, and with a comfortable gap to third place, Ferrari issued a slow command to their drivers to save fuel and manage their cars. Villeneuve interpreted this as a hold station order, meaning Pironi would stay behind him. Pironi, however, saw it as a slowdown, but you can still race. In a shocking move on the final lap, Pironi overtook Villeneuve to snatch the win. Villeneuve was absolutely incandescent with rage, feeling utterly betrayed. He vowed never to speak to Pironi again. This betrayal within Ferrari, fueled by a half-empty grid born from political warfare, led to a deeply tragic outcome. 2 weeks later, Gilles Villeneuve, still furious and potentially over-pushing to beat Pironi's time, suffered a fatal crash during qualifying for the Belgian Grand Prix. Pironi himself would suffer career-ending injuries later that season. The Imola non-starters race is a stark reminder of how political battles and internal team conflicts can have devastating, lasting consequences on the human element of F1. Sliding in at number 7, we have a scandal that tarnished a world champion's early reputation. Liegate from the 2009 Australian Grand Prix. It's the first race of the 2009 season. Lewis Hamilton is the reigning world champion, but McLaren's car isn't great. During the chaotic final laps of the Australian GP, under a safety car, Jarno Trulli's Toyota goes off track. Hamilton passes him. Moments later, McLaren instructs Hamilton to let Trulli back past, which he does. Trulli then gets a penalty for overtaking under safety car conditions, and Hamilton finishes P3. Seems simple, right? Except, after the race stewards investigated the incident. Here's where the lie comes in. McLaren's team manager Dave Ryan and crucially Lewis Hamilton himself told the stewards that no instruction was given to let Trulli past. They painted it as Trulli passing Hamilton without permission. Based on this testimony, Trulli was penalised, and Hamilton's P3 stood. However, just a few days later, bombshell. New audio evidence emerged, specifically the radio transmissions between McLaren and Hamilton that directly contradicted their statements. The audio clearly showed McLaren telling Hamilton to let Trulli by, and Hamilton confirming he would. The FIA reopened the investigation. The fallout was swift and severe. Dave Ryan was immediately sacked by McLaren. Lewis Hamilton, after initially being caught in the lie, bravely fronted up, apologised publicly, and admitted he misled the stewards. He was disqualified from the Australian Grand Prix, losing his points and a podium. McLaren received a suspended ban. Liegate was a massive blow to Hamilton's squeaky clean image early in his career, though he quickly recovered. It was a stark lesson in integrity and honesty, proving that even a reigning champion and a top team aren't above the rules, and that in F1, the truth eventually comes out. Coming in at number 6, we have a political earthquake that nearly fractured Formula One, the FOTA threat and the looming 2009 Bahrain GP boycott. Rewind to 2009. Max Mosley, then president of the FIA, was determined to cut costs in F1. His big idea for 2010 was a controversial optional budget cap. Teams could choose to stick to a strict budget and get more technical freedom, or spend what they wanted but face tighter technical restrictions. The teams, organised under the Formula One Teams Association, led by figures like Ferrari's Luca di Montezemolo and McLaren's Martin Whitmarsh, hated this idea. They saw it as creating a two-tier F1 and fundamentally unfair. The tension escalated rapidly. FOTA argued for stability and a more collaborative approach to rulemaking. Mosley was adamant. As the deadline for 2010 entries approached, FOTA's patience wore thin. On the eve of the 2009 British Grand Prix, in a truly shocking move, the FOTA teams Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull, Renault, BMW, Sauber, Toyota, and Toro Rosso announced their intention to form their own rival breakaway series for 2010. This wasn't just idle chatter, they were seriously threatening to leave F1 and create a Grand Prix World Championship. Imagine losing almost all the major manufacturers and top teams from Formula One. It was a terrifying prospect for the sport. Bernie Ecclestone, the commercial rights holder, scrambled to mediate. After intense negotiations, backroom deals, and a lot of very public mudslinging, a compromise was eventually reached. Max Mosley agreed to step down from his FIA presidency later that year, and the budget cap idea was largely scrapped for a different cost-cutting approach. The FOTA teams rescinded their breakaway threat, and F1 breathed a huge sigh of relief. This scandal showed the incredible power struggle at the top of F1 and how close the sport came to tearing itself apart, all over a set of rules. At number 5, we have perhaps the most embarrassing and infuriating race in F1 history for many fans. Tyregate at the 2005 United States Grand Prix. Picture the scene: Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's F1's big chance to win over the American audience, but disaster strikes. During practice and qualifying, cars running on Michelin tires start experiencing catastrophic tire failures, especially through the banked turn 13. Ralf Schumacher has a huge crash, prompting serious safety concerns. Michelin, fearing for driver safety, determined their tires simply weren't safe for the track's unique conditions. They asked the FIA for permission to either bring in a new, stronger batch of tires or to install a temporary chicane at turn 13 to reduce speeds. The FIA, led by Max Mosley, absolutely refused, citing rules about not changing the track layout and the one set of tires per weekend rule. Ferrari, the only top team on Bridgestone tires, also refused to agree to a chicane, as it would erase their competitive advantage. The situation came to a head on race day. After the formation lap, 14 cars, all those on Michelin tires, pulled directly into the pit lane and retired from the race. This left a comical, infuriating sight. A grid of just 6 cars, 2 Ferraris, 2 Jordans and 2 Minardis, all on Bridgestones, to race the United States Grand Prix. The race itself was a procession, with Michael Schumacher winning against almost no competition. The fans, who had paid good money, were furious. They booed, they threw bottles, and many left early. It was a public relations nightmare for F1 in a crucial market. Michelin later reimbursed ticket holders, but the damage was done. Tyregate was a colossal failure of leadership, compromise and safety, leaving a black mark on F1's relationship with its fans and its image in the US. Creeping into our top 4, it's a moment of sheer desperation and undeniable controversy involving a legendary champion, Michael Schumacher's deliberate crash at the 1997 European Grand Prix in Jerez. It's the final race of the 1997 season. Michael Schumacher, in his Ferrari, is leading the championship by a single point from Jacques Villeneuve in his Williams. The tension is palpable. Mid-race, Villeneuve is catching Schumacher. On lap 48, Villeneuve makes a move up the inside at the dry sack corner. Schumacher, seeing his championship lead slipping away, famously turned his Ferrari into Villeneuve's Williams. The contact was undeniable. Schumacher's car was damaged and forced to retire. Villeneuve, despite damage to his side pod, managed to continue, losing pace but ultimately securing enough points to become the world champion. The world watched in stunned silence. It looked like a blatant, intentional attempt by Schumacher to take Villeneuve out of the race and secure the championship by default. The FIA launched an immediate investigation. Unlike 1994, where he got away with a similar incident, this time the evidence was overwhelming. The FIA declared Schumacher's move a deliberate attempt to cause a collision and stripped him of his second-place finish in the 1997 Drivers' Championship. His points for the season were wiped, though his race wins remained. This scandal stained Schumacher's otherwise glittering career, confirming the ruthless win-at-all-costs mentality he often displayed. It sparked massive debate about sportsmanship and the ethics of championship battles, proving that even the greatest drivers can succumb to intense pressure and cross the line. Taking the bronze medal in our list of infamy at number 3, it's a recent controversy that left a dark cloud over the Scuderia, the Ferrari engine scandal of the 2019 season. In 2019, Ferrari's engines suddenly seemed to find a mysterious burst of straight-line speed, particularly after the summer break. They were incredibly fast on the straights, often pulling away from rivals, even on circuits where they shouldn't have been dominant. Rivals, especially Mercedes and Red Bull, grew suspicious. There were whispers about clever fuel flow trickery or energy recovery system manipulation. The specific accusations revolved around Ferrari potentially bypassing or manipulating the FIA's fuel flow sensor, which measures how much fuel an engine consumes. If you can inject more fuel than measured, you get more power. Simple as that. The FIA issued several technical directives throughout the season, essentially closing loopholes as fast as Ferrari seemed to find them, each time seeming to slow Ferrari's straight-line advantage slightly. The biggest bombshell dropped after the 2019 season ended. The FIA announced that it had concluded its investigation into Ferrari's 2019 power unit and reached a private settlement with the team. The FIA's statement was notoriously vague, mentioning a number of technical commitments and improving the monitoring of all Formula One power units. Crucially, they offered no details about what Ferrari was actually found to have done, nor any public penalty. The secret settlement enraged the other teams. 7 non-Ferrari-powered teams, Mercedes, Red Bull, McLaren, Racing Point, AlphaTauri, Renault and Williams, issued a joint statement expressing their surprise and shock, demanding full disclosure and even threatening legal action against the FIA. The lack of transparency fueled speculation that Ferrari had indeed found a way to operate outside the rules and that the FIA had let them off with a slap on the wrist to avoid a drawn-out public battle with F1's most iconic team. The scandal cast a long shadow, leading to Ferrari's dramatic drop in performance in 2020, when it was widely believed they had to revert to a fully legal, slower engine setup. It highlighted a lack of transparency from the FIA and left many feeling that justice wasn't fully served, proving that sometimes, even in F1, who you know can influence what happens behind closed doors. Grabbing the silver medal on our list of F1's darkest moments, it's a scandal that sounds like something out of a bad movie. Crashgate at the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix, the 2008 F1 season. It's the sport's first ever night race in Singapore. Fernando Alonso, in his Renault, starts down in P15 due to a poor qualifying, but he's on a very light fuel load, meaning he needs to pit early. He pits on lap 12. Just 2 laps later, his teammate Nelson Piquet Jr. crashes heavily into the wall at turn 17, a notoriously difficult corner to clear debris from. This forces a safety car. Now here's the kicker. Because Alonso had pitted early, the safety car perfectly played into his hands. It bunched up the field, allowing him to leapfrog almost everyone who hadn't pitted yet. When the pit lane eventually reopened, the leading cars pitted, dropping them behind Alonso, who then cruised to a highly improbable victory. At the time, it was deemed good luck for Alonso and Renault. But nearly a year later, after Piquet Jr. was dropped by Renault mid-2009, he dropped a bombshell. He alleged that he had been ordered by his team, specifically team principal Flavio Briatore and chief engineer Pat Simons, to deliberately crash at that exact spot to trigger the safety car and help Alonso win. The FIA launched an investigation. Piquet Jr. provided detailed evidence. Renault initially denied everything, but as the evidence mounted, including recorded radio messages, the truth became undeniable. The FIA found Renault guilty of conspiring to fix the race outcome. Flavio Briatore received an indefinite ban from F1, later overturned in civil court. Pat Simons got a 5-year ban, and the Renault team received a disqualification from F1 suspended for 2 years. Alonso was cleared of any involvement. Crashgate was an outrageous act of sporting fraud, a blatant manipulation of a race for strategic gain. It was a dark chapter that questioned the very integrity of the sport and proved that some people would go to truly extreme lengths to win, even at the cost of a driver's safety and the sport's reputation. And finally, topping our list as the biggest, most explosive and financially devastating scandal in F1 history, Spygate from the 2007 season. This wasn't just a technical loophole or a bad call, this was full-blown industrial espionage between 2 of F1's biggest rivals, McLaren and Ferrari. It started innocently enough, or so it seemed. Nigel Stepney, a disgruntled senior mechanic at Ferrari, was reportedly unhappy with his role. He allegedly passed a huge dossier of confidential Ferrari technical documents, literally hundreds of pages detailing their 2007 car, including design drawings, setup sheets and testing data, to Mike Coughlin, McLaren's chief designer. The discovery was almost comical. Coughlin's wife tried to photocopy the documents at a local print shop in Woking, England. The shop owner, a Ferrari fan, recognized the highly sensitive nature of the material and tipped off Ferrari. The FIA launched a massive investigation. Initially, McLaren claimed Coughlin had acted alone and no Ferrari information had been used on their cars. The FIA, in its first ruling, seemed to agree. But then, new evidence emerged. Emails between McLaren drivers Fernando Alonso and Pedro de la Rosa suggested that the Ferrari technical information was, in fact, being discussed and possibly used within the McLaren team. This changed everything. The FIA reopened the case, and this time the hammer fell. In September 2007, McLaren was found guilty of possessing and using Ferrari's confidential information. The penalty was unprecedented, a staggering $100 million fine, the largest fine in sports history at the time. Stripped of all their Constructors' Championship points for the 2007 season, effectively eliminating them from the championship. Crucially, their drivers, Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso were not penalized and were allowed to keep their drivers' championship points, with Hamilton famously losing the title by just 1 point to Kimi Raikkonen in the final race. Spygate was a seismic event. It exposed the cutthroat world of F1 design and the lengths teams would go to gain an advantage. It highlighted deep-seated rivalries and raised serious questions about intellectual property and ethics in elite motorsport. The sheer scale of the fine and the stripping of points sent a clear message. Industrial espionage would not be tolerated. It remains a stark warning and the undisputed heavyweight champion of F1 scandals. What a wild ride through the pit lane of F1's darkest secrets we just had. Our countdown of the top 10 F1 scandals that rocked the world of Formula One proves that the drama isn't just confined to the racetrack. So, which of these controversies shocked you the most? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button and subscribe to F1 Focus for more.